I always forget to turn my microphone on. I was kind of daydreaming and the screen tuned out. G'day. How you doing? Adam Williams here, and I'm coming through loud and clear because my phone was turned up again. Let me just tweak a few things here. The profile picture's kind of in a funny spot. Covering up the tools. That's better. How you doing? I hope you're all well. Good morning. Staying safe, staying well. Great to be back with you again today. Wasn't Tom Putt just absolutely brilliant yesterday? Absolutely brilliant. I loved every minute of it. He set a couple of new records, probably more, in fact. He set most viewers concurrently watching, so altogether watching. I'm not sure the exact peak. It was up around 260, which was a huge increase. Set a new target for me to try and chase down, or future guests to chase down. He also set the longest stream, and many of you loved it. You just loved watching and said the time flew by, and you watched the entire show. So absolutely incredible. There were a few things that I know I can improve on from my end. I let the team down a little bit, as I often do. The weak link. Let's just call me the weak link from now on. I know that I need to have headphones on when I have a guest on Zoom, because otherwise what tends to happen is the audio was coming from Tom, and then it was bouncing around my room a little bit and going back in as feedback. Okay, so there was a little bit of echo at Tom's end, but a lot of it was being made worse at my end. So I had to switch my microphone off to try and stop that, which made handling the stream a little bit difficult with questions and whatnot. But I'm always looking to improve. I mean, that's what it's all about. In my photography, I'm always looking at taking those one small steps further and improving my photography, at every opportunity. And it's the same with this live stream. I realize I'm a complete amateur at live stream. We're 4 weeks in. We're doing okay, but I can keep improving. And you might see, can you see? There's cardboard boxes behind me, cardboard on the wall. I'm building a new YouTube set for the show. I want to have a full screen so I can come and greet you guys full screen. And I'm building a set out of cardboard. How's that going to look? It'll be interesting. But if I can turn a really crappy photo into something half decent, maybe I can turn cardboard into something rather interesting. I've got a vision in mind. Let's see how that goes. All right, what else? There was a few things that I wanted to just mention before we get going. One thing, I had a shout out. Who was the shout out for? Where is it? Kerry. Special shout out. Kerry emailed me yesterday. Thank you so much for your email and your kind words. And I said that I'd try and give you a special shout out. There it is. I hope you managed to tune in today. And I hope you're enjoying the morning so far. For everyone else out there, I'm getting a lot of emails and a lot of encouragement, and it's really beautiful to hear you guys just checking that everything was working fine, and it is. You guys are going crazy over there. I thought it maybe wasn't coming through. Turn your microphone, Adam. What's going on? We can't see you or hear you. But it looks like it's okay. I'm getting a lot of beautiful emails from everyone with a lot of encouraging words, and that is really, really nice. And one of the themes that I'm seeing is, some of you out there aren't even necessarily, all that keen or passionate about photography. You're just enjoying tuning in. So I want to also mention that if you have some friends that are maybe, living by themselves and a little bit isolated, send them a text message, give them a call and say, hey, I'm watching this show. It's kind of entertaining in between the stuff ups. Why don't you come and join me and watch this show with me? I know you're not overly keen on photography or cameras, but maybe it's something that could develop an interest. So absolutely invite those friends that you think, maybe you're doing it tough in this isolation. Tell them to come along and join in. It's not a two-way conversation. I understand that, but I think there is some social value or some socializing value in the live comments and the chit chat that goes on. I've got lots of Australia's most inspirational photographers lined up. I'm not going to announce the list of photographers that I have, but they're going to blow your mind. They are literally going to blow your mind. I should have an announcement on Monday for our next guest photographer, and she is absolutely brilliant. just a phenomenal photographer and a huge inspiration for me and a lot of other Australian photographers. Stay tuned for that one on Monday. I've got some notes over here. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything out. If you're interested in learning Photoshop, because I'm getting some emails suggesting that, it's difficult in these times to, sign up for courses, financially or otherwise. But remember, my most popular Photoshop workflow course is down in the description below, and it's choose whatever price you like. If you can afford $1, $2, $10, then absolutely thank you very much. If you can't, please sign up, a gift from me. I want you to have that course, and I want you to be producing absolutely beautiful photos that are maybe telling your story and maybe uplifting for all of your friends on social media. Please sign up. Don't feel guilty signing up for free. I would love it if you signed up for free. Likes. I don't usually mention the like button. How many have we got now? We've got 7 likes. I'm not sure how many people are watching. I can't see that. Or can I? No, it's clearly not working today. It says 0. Okay. Maybe I am talking to myself. I don't think I am. But it says 0, so let's just turn that off. I forgot to obviously log in to that particular website that relays the count to me. Anyway, we're not chasing records today. We're just looking at photo critique. But if you could, please, it's the little small thing that you could do. If you're a regular at this channel, then, if you could make it a habit of just, as you log in, click the like button. I would really, really appreciate it. But, if you think I'm only a 50-50 chance of delivering a video that's any good, then by all means, wait till it reaches whatever threshold that happens to be where, you start giving away those likes. But if I've already reached the threshold in the previous videos, then I would love if you could hit that like button and support the channel. If you're new, and I saw a few people that were introducing themselves this morning saying that they were first time, welcome. The best way, we do this every morning, 10 a.m. Sydney time, so this time slot from Monday to Friday, 5 times a week. The best way to make sure you never miss out and get reminded is to, and it helps the channel as well, absolutely it does, hit the subscribe button, and then right to the right-hand side of that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell and ask YouTube to send you a notification. Send all notifications, which will result in you getting an email and I believe, mobile phone, one of those little dings on the mobile phone to tell you Adam Williams Creative is going live. Okay, so that will hopefully result in you returning back. But again, if you kind of think that, it's not really worth it and it's not very good, then probably don't do that. But if you're enjoying it, absolutely, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe and click the notification bell. Oh, we're getting live updates from you guys. 103. We cracked the 100. It's a long way to chase Tom Putt down. Very daunting at 257 or 60 or something it was. But look, to be honest, the photo critique is not the one that chases the records down. It is when I have the big name guests on, like Tom Putt, because it's fantastic and they bring in a lot of their followers and fans and whatnot as well. So I'm quite happy to take a back seat and allow my guests to keep setting records, building those numbers up. Absolutely phenomenal. All right, was there anything else? Let me just check my notes here. Oh, there is one big one or 2 things that I wanted to mention actually. Tom was incredible yesterday. I've put a link to his video in the description below if you haven't already seen it. After this show, click on that and you can entertain yourself for, a large chunk of the day if you like over lunchtime. Secondly, Tom also had a huge resource of free ebooks. I have also left the link to his free ebooks in the description below as well. So there's a lot of stuff in the description. If you can't find the description, because YouTube kind of hides it, to be honest, particularly on mobile phones, just below the video there'll be a little kind of arrow on the right hand side. Click on that arrow and it should expand open. Okay, I think chat is by default. Okay, but just up above the chat on the right hand side under the right hand corner of the video there's a little arrow. If you click that, it will open up the description and you'll see all those good links there. Secondly, and the final announcement before we actually do some photo critique. I've mentioned a free photo competition. I'm going to announce it on Monday. We've got some prizes. It's going to be free, so how good's that? And we're going to judge the final, probably the final 16, maybe the final 32. So if you make the final, whatever it happens to be, 16 or 32, your image is going to be on this live YouTube show via a free photo comp live final. We will judge that live to air. I might even invite a couple of those high profile Australian photographers that we've had on the show or that are coming up on the show to help me judge those images live. So it'll be kind of like a photography critique on steroids, because there's going to be prizes involved. There'll be high profile photographers hopefully involved giving their opinion and debating which photos of those top final photos are the best or are worthy of the prizes. Okay, if that sounds awesome, then stick around and be sure to be here on Monday for that announcement, all the details, how to enter. There was a couple of questions. Wow, you guys smashed the likes apparently. I can't see the likes updating, but someone told me there is now 35 likes, and we started with about 7 or 8 when I put that request out. So thank you so much. That little small gesture just tells YouTube that this is a video worth watching, and it all helps to build the momentum of the channel, which I really appreciate, because a couple of reasons. I didn't realize, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely loving this and I look forward to it every morning and it gives me purpose. But when I started out, to be honest, I didn't realize how much work was going to be involved. So this live channel has pretty much taken over my entire week's work program to a certain degree, at least about 60 or 70% of it. So by helping me build that, it's giving me the encouragement to keep on going. I'm already committed to doing it until the restrictions come off, so maybe another 4 weeks or so. But I'm looking forward to maybe continuing it for the foreseeable future. Okay, so hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know that you're loving it, and we will keep doing it. All right, there were a couple of questions. I'm not going to go through. I'd love to go through and say hi to everyone by name, and it's hilarious because I'm hopeless at pronouncing names. I know. But there was a question, I can't remember who said it and I can't find it. In fact, if you're going to put a question down, make sure you tag me like this here. Okay, see that fluoro orange? When you tag, I guess you write at Adam Williams Creative, just like it's written there, and it pops up in fluorescent, well I said yellow, didn't I? It's really orange. Fluoro orange. And I can see if there's a question or you're trying to get my attention for something. Which Simon says, your numbers of audience counter have stopped. Yeah, I forgot to log in. Sorry about that. Not that it matters, does it? The stuff-ups make you human and 100%, and not 100% perfect, exactly. Imperfection is what I strive for in both my art and my YouTube channel. Number one, because it's more interesting than perfection most of the time. But there was a question. I can't see it. As I said, if you want to leave your input on these particular images or leave questions or suggestions, be sure to tag me because it will grab my eye and I'll look at that. I know there was one question about when would you convert, or when would I convert an image to black and white and how I would do that. Let's dedicate a whole episode to that, maybe next week even. To be honest, I'm not a real black and white guru, but I'll give my opinion and then I'll go and try and find a black and white guru to come in and explain their workflow live on the channel. That sounds awesome, doesn't it? Let me make a note. Black and white guru. This makes good TV, doesn't it? Or good YouTube. Me writing notes down. Black and white guru. All right. How are we going? Let me scroll down, make sure there's no questions. One-eyed photographer says, type at Adam and choose it. Okay, so you only need to type at Adam and a list will pop up of tags and just choose me from that list of tags to make that easier. 80 likes. You guys are just smashing the likes. Thank you so much. We got 111 watching and 80 likes. I realize if you don't have a YouTube channel or haven't actually signed up to YouTube yet, that I don't think you can hit the like button, can you? But if you haven't signed up to YouTube, it's free, and then you can subscribe, like, comment, and have fun in the chats all round. So there's a lot of value to signing up, and I don't see a lot of downsides, to be honest. But so go ahead and sign up to YouTube if that sounds like fun, joining in the live chat, hitting the like button and hitting the subscribe button and all that good stuff that I love. Okay. Would love another video on 3D. Yeah, that's coming up. I need to polish my skills on 3D. We're also going to look at a 3D sharpening technique in the coming weeks. I've got so many ideas. I just struggle in the morning or in the day before normally when I'm preparing for which one I'm going to choose. And I like to have a bit of a balance between the beginner stuff and the advanced stuff and everything in between. So stay tuned. We've got some really good stuff coming up. Are we going to do any photo critique today, guys? I think we should. I'm getting lots of questions. I get a decent color photo, then convert to mono and play with the light and contrast. That's for mono. Absolutely, says One-Eyed Photographer. Let's take a look. Trudy is probably there just absolutely in panic because she can see by her name on here that she is up first. Hopefully Trudy's with us. If you are, say hello or g'day in the live chat there. Trudy says, and look, I don't look at these photos for more than 5 seconds, so this is all off instinct. So hopefully I can find some ways to improve these photos. Trudy says, I was trying to bring a sense of serenity in the Patagonian mountains. Also fire up the color that was present in the autumn leaves. But as this was at sunrise, I didn't want to over brighten either. There's not too much editing in this image. I shot for the highlights and raised the shadows, then applied a gradient to the sky, and that's pretty much it, all in Lightroom 2. I hate Lightroom, so I was challenging myself to try and use that only. Still not a big fan of Lightroom, she says there. I quite like Lightroom. I find it a little bit easier, if anything, than what Photoshop is. However, I enjoy Photoshop more so for my style of photography because of the fact that it doesn't present any boundaries to what I'm able to do with my own photography. Lightroom is great, but it can't do everything that Photoshop can do. So particularly for someone like me that doesn't, I guess, worry too much about reality, and I like bringing composites together to help tell my stories, then for me, Photoshop is the winner, absolutely. Let's have a look. Let me know what you guys think of this particular image and if you have any ideas, because I do remember last photo critique, I believe, it was Peter Hammer suggested, and I didn't see this till after the show, but he had a great suggestion of a particular image that he thought might look good in black and white or mono. And when I went back through the comments, I thought, geez, you know, Peter was absolutely right, and I wish I had have seen that throughout the live show. Now, I realise that, Peter, you don't need much encouragement to give us your expert opinion, which is very much appreciated, absolutely. So I'm sure if you've got any suggestions, then please throw them on down. Throw them on down. That would be very much appreciated. I'm just scanning through. Oh, okay. Peter has left us a suggestion of a photographer, of Christine Wilson, to look up for black and white. Maybe I'll look up and contact Christine. I'll take a look first, and if I really dig her work, then I'll give her a yell. Maybe she's super duper famous and I just haven't heard of her, and maybe she doesn't have time. But let's see. All right, Trudy. Let me just skip back here. Trudy, bringing out a sense of serenity and really boosting the colour, fire up the colour in the autumn leaves and the sky. Beautiful photo. Let me zoom in a notch. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful photo. I just love the soft colour palette. I enjoy the soft light. And I'm loving the pink clouds, the red leaves, the beautiful still reflections that really add to the serenity of the photo. I think you've done an incredible job there. So that's all the good stuff. The composition is great. Strong subject, tick. I love a strong subject. I like the composition of the foreground. If I'm honest, I would have maybe liked to see a little bit more. I'm feeling like this is getting a little tight down here, and particularly in balance with the sky. We've got a lot of sky, and the lot of sky is actually adding to the serenity and the space and the calmness by allowing us room to breathe. I quite like that. But maybe just to balance the image a little bit more, I would have at least tried a little bit more of that beautiful autumn color in the foreground. How else might I improve this image? Not a lot, to be honest. I mean, to give the image more impact, there's a couple of things that I might like to try and see if they suited your story. Firstly, the moon. I believe this is the moon. The moon up there, to me, is not really adding a lot to the image. Now, having a moon in the shot could add, I believe, a certain sense of tranquility and peace and calm to the image. But that little kind of blurry blob there is not doing it for me. So if you're into compositing a little bit, or you're wanting to maybe try that, and look, maybe you're not. A photo like this suggests that you really love natural beauty and love bringing out what is in that particular shot in one capture maybe. I'm not sure, I'm just guessing. But if you're open to maybe experimenting, a beautiful, slightly oversized, crescent-shaped moon here would really, for me, maybe add and maybe even bring it down a little bit into this sort of natural vase, if you like, between the clouds. Like bring it in here, okay? Would also balance the sky out quite nicely, balance those intense pinks out by having something over this side to balance that, maybe. A beautiful crescent-shaped moon, just subtly, not overly bright, sitting in behind the clouds, could just set this image off. An absolute treat, I believe. The other thing that I'm thinking is, or wondering is, if I hit the crop tool here, just clear that out. It was set to my YouTube thumbnail crop. I'm just wondering, do we need all of that sky? And that's a more traditional crop there. 2/3, 1/3. Whoops, and I've cropped. Just tidy up that bottom there. That's a more traditional crop, and if I click the crop overlay, you can see we have the 1/3 line running through the waterline horizon there. And that would be a more traditional 2/3, 1/3 crop. I don't think we're really compromising. I don't feel I'm compromising the serenity and the peace and calm that we were getting from having more sky than foreground, because it's a beautiful, peaceful sky. But I feel like all that sky up the top was a little bit of overkill. So, maybe experiment with the crop. Have a look. If you've got a beautiful shot of a crescent moon, see if you can drop in a subtle crescent moon there somewhere, and it might just set that image off. One other little thing, always look around the edge of your frame, as I was just doing there before I wrapped up. And there's a little branch just tweaking in that edge there. Okay, just remove that little branch. Simple as just grab the spot healing brush, add a blank layer. And it's just a distraction. It's not adding to the story. It's not helping. Okay, remove that little area. Similar with in this case, I find the moon a little bit distracting to the overall scene. I think without it, for me, at this point, I think you've got a better photo. You might disagree, and that's absolutely up to you and the story you're trying to tell. Peter Hammer, blushing. Peter, you're one of the most knowledgeable and talented photographers that I know. Absolutely. Maybe, Peter, we could get you on one day and do a feature of some of your really creative work that I've seen. I know you sort of span a lot of genres of photography, but I'd love to have you on. Flick me a private message and we'll get you on. And I love that you support what we do here, and are here most days. Oh, Len Metcalf. Yeah, absolutely. Carolyn's Outdoor Cooking in Oz. Looks like you've got your own channel there. Everyone, after the show, jump over and check out Carolyn's Outdoor Cooking in Oz. I don't know if you've got any videos, but click a subscribe there and support Carolyn's channel as well. Yeah, Len Metcalf. I love Len. I haven't met him face to face, but I've chatted with him on the phone a few times, and I'm sure he's such a generous soul. I'm not 100%, I can't guarantee, but I will question whether he would like to come on. I love his philosophy and I love his work, and I would love, I'm a fan, a huge fan. I would love if Len came on the channel here and presented. I will reach out. Let me give you some more great YouTube TV here and write down Len on my notepad. Okay. I think another big plus here for Trudy's image is the processing is absolutely gorgeous. The colours, the contrast, and the brightness is absolutely beautiful. So well done there. Incredible image. Peter says he's happy to do it. Okay, it'll be a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks before we get Peter Hammer on here. But we will do that. We will do that. Absolutely. Next image. Thank you, Trudy. Beautiful, beautiful image. Thanks for submitting and being brave. This is a brave thing. Trevor's now heart has just jumped out into his throat. I know what it feels like when I enter the AIPP and they judge those images live. It's nerve-wracking. For me, the way I liken it when I'm getting judged by AIPP, and you'll have a bit of a laugh at this, let's remember back to when we were 14, well, maybe 14's a bit young, but, 15, 16, 17, you got a bit of a crush on somebody, boy, girl, otherwise, whatever. And back in my day, we didn't have Facebook or anything like that to be able to easily send a message over saying, say, I kind of like you. Do you want to go around sometime? Was the thing in my day. You want to go around? Do you want to go out? You either had to do it face to face, or you had to do it by ringing the landline, which resulted in their parents answering the phone first. So you had to get through, this gate of fear that the parents might pick up the phone and you just hang up the phone half the time. Or if you have the guts to say, hi, is such and such there? And they're like, oh yeah, who can I say is speaking? And you're just freaking out at that point thinking, oh, it's too late to hang up now. But it's kind of like that. It's too late to hang up, Trevor. You've submitted your image and you've asked me, do I want to go out? Do I like your image or do I not? That's the way, when I enter the AIPP competition, it's kind of putting your heart on the line, on your sleeve, putting it out there and saying to the people that you really hold at the highest esteem, do you like what I do? Do you like my images? And it's just like heart thumping. I've never had my heart thump so hard. And the only previous experience I can compare that kind of cold sweat nervousness is to putting your heart on the line and asking someone to go out with you. How about that, eh? What a strange metaphor. Work from home says going out sounds really cute. Yeah, hey? My hair's looking on point. I need a haircut, Tom Putt. I know that. My little boy's going to shave my head probably this weekend. So look for my my new shaved head look on Monday too. We'll see how we go. Or I could just grow it out. I noticed you had some lovely long locks there at some stages throughout your photography slide presentation yesterday. What are we talking about? What is and Paris artifact says, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. You're going to have to explain that one. Probably laughing at me, having a great chuckle. Maybe that's laughing in with a heavy Spanish accent. I'm sorry. Spanish? French is what I was trying to say. And I probably every French person that's tuned in probably just turned out and I'm going red because I've just insulted everyone. All right, what are we doing? Trevor says the attached image was captured on, I can feel my face going red. The attached image was captured on the spur of the moment as I was driving from Hallett, South Australia, to Burra on a windy day. I saw the dust devil forming and heading towards the windmill, and it reminded me of how arid and desolate it was and how the drought was impacting on the countryside. I wanted to show the power of the wind under these conditions. No time for preparation no time for thinking and preparation other than to stop and grab the shot right then and there. We've all been there. Absolutely. Let's take a look. Number one, before we even look at the image, I love the narrative and the thought behind what you're trying to capture. I think that's a really big step and a really big improvement that a lot of us can make, is to be more aware of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to capture, the story or the image that we're trying to capture or what we're trying to say or communicate at all the processes throughout our photography. It will make our photos much, much better and give us that vision that a lot of us are looking for. We're all sort of wanting to have this particular vision for our images, and just a simple story like that can really help. Dust devil forming, arid, desolate, drought. Okay, let's have a look. Wow, what a dust devil. Absolutely incredible. Digging the composition. I really like the composition. It has a nice balance to it. And what I mean by balance, if I grab my brush here, that should be fine. Let's use a bright red brush. And what I'm talking about balance, if I was to draw a line, for example, like that, and we called the midpoint, and this was a seesaw. Let me turn that brush up a bit so it's a bit brighter, so we can see it. What I'm talking about, compositional balance, if you haven't heard of that saying before, a lot of us lean on rule of thirds in the early stages of our photography, and I love rule of thirds, it works really well on occasion, but balance can work really well in conjunction or when the rule of thirds is not quite working as we would like. And balance goes a little bit of something like this. If we draw a line through there, and where's the middle? Roughly here. Let's call this a seesaw, teeter-totter. And as you know, when we have equal amounts of weight on both ends of a seesaw, it works pretty well. But if I jump on a seesaw with my little 5-year-old boy, it's right out of balance, right? And if you have too much visual weight on one side of a photograph and not enough visual weight on the other, it can be really right out of balance as well. Now, there are compositions that work really well out of balance. One that comes to mind is a bookend composition that I believe works pretty well. That's where you have a really heavy object on one side of the frame, like a headland. Say you like shooting the coastline, the beaches, and you use a headland to really anchor and bookend one side of your photograph. And then you have this open expanse of, peace and calm and negative space, if you like. So not much on the other side. A bookend composition works pretty well in that case. But in this case, Trevor has a really well-balanced composition. And what I mean by that is, let's go to a different color. Woo, different colors. Here we go. What I mean by that is, you can see we have this element, and this element, all balancing up the composition really, really well. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And often, similar on a seesaw, similar with a big person on a seesaw. Let me just go back to that graphic there. Similar with a seesaw, if I'm sitting on a seesaw with my little nearly 6-year-old boy, please. If there's a big element at this end and a small element at this end, the big element can balance the small element by moving closer to the center. So you could potentially have a big element, for example, balanced by a small element. And depending where you place them in relation to the center, you can get a balanced composition that way as well. Whereas in this image, Trevor has basically got, 3 relatively equally weighted elements, nicely balanced across the frame. Works really, really well. Now, there's a couple of things. Composition is great. I love it. There's a couple of things that I would look to improve on to really try and capture that story of that arid, dry, drought type of scenario that you talked about in your story there. And one of the things that I see is this really bright blue sky is maybe distracting from that. And it might just be a case of just taking some blue saturation out, add a hue saturation layer. We can even change over to here, we can change to blues and maybe just knock the blues down. Not coming down, are they? Isn't that strange? They must be sitting in the cyan range. Let's click up here and go to cyan and then shift them down. Look to me, bang, straight away, that gives a more of a sense of dry, drought than where we were before. It's creating some weird artifacts up here. Is that me doing that? It probably is. I tell you what we'll do. Let's reset that. And what can happen is when you individually move those sliders independent of each other, because blue and cyan have a very close relationship, it can create artifacting. So be very careful of that. So rather than do that, no, it is creating artifacting. So these artifacts are clearly already in the photo. So going back, Trevor. Sorry, I forgot whose photo I was looking at here. Go back to your image, Trevor, and just have a look at your process. And every time you do an adjustment, see if you can figure out where these are coming in. I have a hunch that it might be in something like NickFX filters. If you're using NickFX, and I love NickFX, don't get me wrong, I do, I really love it, really dig it. But go back through, and something like some of those heavy contrast filters can really add some chunkiness to your photos like I'm seeing here. And it might just be the haziness of the clouds, but there's something that's really emphasized that and making it look a little unnatural. Okay. I'm going to invert that. B for brush. Just set my brush up for a little bit of an edit here. And white. I'm just going to knock. Don't worry about the artifacting. There's not a lot I can do about that, to be honest. I could use a noise filter or a blur to try and hide that. That might work. What I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of that blue out, and we might even brighten that up, curves. Because, you know, dust, drought, dry, it sort of comes in conjunction with a really blazing sunshine too, doesn't it? So we would expect that to be pretty bright. We would expect that to be pretty bright. That's looking good. Let's add some dust. Let's add a bit more dust. What we're going to do is add a solid color layer. We can do this a couple of ways, but this is the easiest. Go for an orange initially, click OK. In fact, let me turn off the visibility of that icon, and then double click on the colored square here. And now when I come off the color picker, I mean the solid color adjustment box, if you like, whatever that's called, I have an eyedropper and I can click one of the colors from Trevor's image here. That might work. Let's see. I might just brighten it up a little bit. Okay. So now I'm using the colors that are already there in the landscape. So technically we're not really adding too much. Depends which way you see it, really. Opacity. Oh, can we see already that beautiful dustiness that is starting to really come to this image? Something like that. And maybe we'll click on the mask and invert that, B for brush, and you would get more of this effect up the top of the layer. I was thinking about using a gradient filter to apply this. That would be a good way of doing that as well. Just that little bit of effect there. And maybe I could also just knock the black point up, which will lessen the shadows, take the edge off the shadows, and also give it a little bit of that dustiness. Okay, see what's, and even just brighten up a little bit more. Okay. You know, I've probably taken that too far. Try a solid color layer over the sky. I was just thinking that Doug Porter, good mate of mine, very talented photographer. Check his work out. Google Doug Porter photography. What's your other brand name, Doug? Is it, just type that in there so people can look you up. And I haven't asked Doug yet either, but I'm going to put the pressure on. Or maybe I have asked Doug. I'm going to put the pressure on Doug to come on as well, because he's a super talent and a photographer that captures a real sense of story and narrative. It's really beautiful. Solid color across the entire image. Let's see if we can get a little bit more emotion and mood by maybe adding a solid color in soft light. Maybe not that color, okay? It's always a guess with solid color if you get it right. It's a little bit mustardy for me now. I want it to be a little bit more rich. That's it. A bit more Australian outback with its richness. Perfect. Yeah. And one more layer. Sure, I'm just getting carried away. I feel like what do we need? I tell you what I do when I'm not sure what I need with the tonality. Add a curves layer and hit the auto button. Let's see if that, whoa. Once again, hold down Option or Alt and hit auto again, because there's more options behind the secret door here. And you know what? It's taking a lot of the mood and atmosphere out of this image. Maybe that one. I'm just going to mess with it and brighten it up a little bit. And also pick the shadows up a little bit. Something like that. So I've probably completely messed that up, Trevor, but you get the idea. Have a little bit more of a play with the solid color layers in normal blend mode and lower the opacity. That's what this one was here. It was in normal opacity, and then we just lowered the blend mode, and that's even more dusty now, isn't it? You know, something like that, wherever it suits. Have a play around with the colors, the tones, and see if you can't create a little bit more of that narrative that you were telling me about in that original story. Let's go back to the original before. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but with that particular narrative that you were telling me, maybe that helps tell that story a little bit better. Fresco Images, look them up. That's Doug Porter's website you'll find there. Okay. I'm going to get him on. I'm going to put the pressure on. Absolutely. All right, we're going well here. Chai tea. Who loves chai tea? I certainly do. Dean, please find attached image called Spring Showers. I was trying to accentuate the light breaking through the clouds, illuminating the landscape while still showing a showery day on the land. And for those of you that are wondering where I get these images from, I did a call out a couple of weeks ago, and look, I've got 3 or 4 weeks worth of critiqued images, and I don't hand select them. I just choose the next 8 in my email list and I go from there. Okay, so stay tuned, keep watching, and I'll do another call out in a couple of weeks and ask for some more images when I start running out. Okay, so we're looking for trying to accentuate the light breaking through the clouds, illuminating the landscape while still being, I'm assuming, a bit of a dark, showery day. Let's have a look. Beautiful. Absolutely captured that to a T. First impression. Light illuminating the land, dark in the background. Nailed it. I love the composition too. There isn't really a big, strong subject, but that's okay. I love the big, wide vista and the story that it tells of that beautiful sunlight breaking through on a dark day. However, there is some weird artifacting. So maybe you were going for that kind of paintedly look, and to a certain degree you've achieved that, but there's some definite sort of banding going up through the sky. There's some haloing on the sheep in the foreground, and just in general it looks a little bit unnatural. So just try and refine how you do that. And even the banding up here, you know, even adding a little bit of noise, but I would potentially just dial it back a fraction. And the way I often do that, if I have the background layer still there, because I love going overboard, and this is where I would go completely overboard to that level, and then I'd go, okay, that's what I want, but let's just dial it back a hair, just a hair. And the way I often do that is to duplicate the background layer, bring it to the top, and then lower the opacity down to a level where, you know, because I like to push my photos off the ledge and then bring them back up so they sit right on the edge. And by duplicating my background layer, dragging it to the top of the layer stack, and then lowering the opacity all the way down to maybe just 5 or 10%, it often just brings my images back. And what I think it would do with this image is just bring a little bit of that detail back whilst maintaining that beautiful paintedly style that you've got here. I think the processing is quite nice. It's a little bit cold, if anything. So what I mean by cold is this beautiful green yellow sunlight. Maybe we could just warm that up a fraction. Let's have a look. And we could just maybe just a photo filter, just in a warm orange, one of the warming ones. I quite like that one there. And once again, I would invert that layer because I like the coldness in the sky, and I'm just looking to, you know, bring a little bit more warmth into the foreground, okay, where that light is breaking through. Just something as simple as that. Before, after, very subtle. Before, the greens are very almost lime green, like they've got a touch of blue in them. And then after, they're a little bit more warmer, a little bit more sunlit, like they've been hit by the sunlight. And look, I could even add another one of those. Could I? Maybe. Yeah? Depends. It's up to your eye, really. But you'll probably notice what I'm talking about now. Warm foreground, cold background adds a little bit of interest. Let's have a look at before. Before, see how the greens are quite limeish, quite bluish? And then after, they've got that real sunlit glow to them, which I think, again, going by your story, is what you were trying to achieve. So maybe this will help you to achieve that. Awesome. Dean, thank you so much for submitting the image. Let's move along to the next. Peter Hammer says, cut the whole half of the image. Peter, are you talking? Yeah, maybe he's talking about this one, and I can see a potential crop there too. Yep, something like that. Although, actually, I still... We do possums in the roof or something, eh? We do have the trees here as a kind of a subject over here, anchoring this side. Yeah, so maybe a crop like that could work too. Peter says yes. Yes, he was referring to this image. I tend to agree. With these really, really super duper wide panoramics, they can kind of look good in Photoshop, but when it comes to actually presenting them somewhere, whether it be on your website, on social media, as a print, these really, really super duper wide ratios are really specific to where they can actually go on a wall. They need a particular wall, like up behind an office desk or something might work. But often they can look really, really skinny when they print out. Okay, so keep that in mind too. So with that in mind, maybe we could bring that in to say more of a crop like that. Okay. Sue Ellen, I think the symmetry in the sky. I think the symmetry is in the sky, so the cropping removes that. Yeah, I do agree with that to a certain degree too, because we have this kind of symmetry here and symmetry here, and the straight lines are coming down here. So absolutely. We could, if we were talking purely about ratios here, we could try and do something. Sorry, let's just get back out of here. Turn those on. Often what I'll do to improve the aspect ratio of a photo is you can do things like, I've merged all my layers up so I have them all on one layer, and we could do something like, let's see if we can get away with stretching up a little bit. Command or Control J to put that on its own layer. Okay, just like that. Command or Control T. Anyone else like to do this too? Adjust their ratios. I need to just, let's click OK, but I need to just widen my canvas a little bit. Let's give us a little bit of room, top and bottom. I often like to just mess with my ratios a little bit like this. Command or Control T again, holding Shift down. Just lift that up. Gives a little bit more of a grandness to the sky in this scenario too. But we could also maybe stretch the foreground. If it was purely about ratio, although I quite like that ratio now because it's giving me, again, a closer to a thirds ratio, third foreground, third sky. And I think that kind of works too. So thanks to Sue Ellen for that input because it took me down another path, maintaining the symmetry whilst also tweaking the image to get a slightly taller ratio. Sue Ellen says frequently. Yeah, I mess with that frequently as well. Some would argue that it's because I don't get it right in camera, and I would agree with that sometimes too. Sometimes I get my composition out of balance in camera and I don't realize, and then I get it into Photoshop and I realize, sitting back at this perspective with a bit more room between myself, artists often say sitting back is a great place to really view your work, and I would agree with that as well. And I suddenly see that it's out of balance and I need to stretch one side or the other to bring that balance back, or that ratio back. Yvonne says, I sometimes use color lookup in the adjustments. Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably like to get a photographer on to talk about color lookup tables. If I could get Christian Fletcher, putting the pressure on him. I haven't messaged Christian yet. But if I could get him to talk about his workflow live on the channel, he's a superstar of Australian photography. and I think it might be half a chance of getting him on. He does use a lot of lookup tables. The reason I don't want to go into it is I don't use them, and I don't know the subtleties of them so much. Let's move along. If you haven't noticed, it looks like I'm trying to break Tom Putt's marathon time record. Okay, we're coming up on the hour mark almost, and we're only halfway through. Once again, if you want to support the channel, smash those likes. Smash the likes. What a cheesy thing to say. Please hit the like button. And if this is the first time here, we do this every morning, or it's morning in Sydney time in any case, probably evening in the States, the USA, where I had a look at the stats yesterday. Majority are from Australia. Thank you for supporting me if you're from the land of Oz. The next biggest segment, if you like, was from the United States of America. So if you're over there, it's probably evening time, I guess, is it? But if it's your first time here and you want to join us again next week on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we do it every day. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so that you can join us live each weekday morning and pass a bit of time, have a bit of fun, look at some photos, have a play around. Oh, I tell you what I was hoping to do next week as well, and I haven't got this in the description below, but there's some great stuff down there. Be sure to check it out. I was hoping to do some live edits on your RAW file or your unedited file. So make a note of this right now. If you want to do something like that, email me to adam@easywayphotography.com. Email me a RAW file, an unedited TIFF file, an unedited JPEG, whatever you like. I'm not going to do those sequentially from the first person to the last. I am going to hand pick those out, but to be in with a chance of having your file edited and to see what I can bring out in that, send me an email to that address and we'll do some of that next week. Adam is now freaking out because his image is on screen and we're about to take a look. I hope everyone's enjoying it so far. Here is a photo from just weeks ago, taken at the Horn at Mount Buffalo. I've been there. I know this location well. I was just practicing my composition after doing a composition workshop with Mika. Hey Mika, if you're out there, she often tunes in, and we might have an announcement coming up with Mika, hopefully. She'd just done a composition workshop with Mika that morning. I don't mind the shot, but looking back now, I wish I had got the wall coming from the corner. Okay, sorry about my hopeless reading out aloud. We've discussed that before. It's one of my fears. One of my anxieties is reading out aloud. It stems back from high school. I used to freak out. Oh wow, yeah. Well, I'm not sure the composition is all that, all that bad, Adam. I can see some improvements. Absolutely, I can. But I really quite like it. It does have a nice sense of balance, and when I first saw this morning, I thought that there was some composition that I didn't enjoy. But as I look at it more, I dig in the quirkiness. I'm loving the quirkiness. A lot of people would say, and I was about to tell you that maybe this tree didn't have as much of an inclusion as what I would like to see. But now that I'm looking at it, it has a composition refinement that I see from some of the most talented photographers out there. There's a quirkiness that I didn't understand initially that I'm now getting that wasn't there before. I'm seeing this tree as a hand reaching out, and it's really speaking to me on a level of the current circumstances that a lot of us are in that isolation, if you like. And I see this as a hand that's reaching out to the isolation of the main subject being this lookout, the sandstone lookout there, okay, on Mount Buffalo. Whereas when I first saw this morning, I was looking at it on a more, well, I'm going to call it, I don't know, a level of just ABC of what you should look for in composition. And I was going to suggest that maybe you could have included more of that composition. But look at that. Who was that famous artist that created the was it the Sistine Chapel, where you have those two hands kind of reaching out? This composition of this branch really looks like a natural version of the hand reaching out, doesn't it? Can you guys see that with me? I'm really am seeing that, and there's this real tension between the distance between the hand and the main hut there. I hope you're not thinking I'm a crackpot there, but that just came to me there, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. So I wouldn't ask you to change much. You could play around with the positioning of the hut and maybe bring it in a little bit, thereby bringing the hand a little bit closer and maybe creating a little bit more tension. But I was originally, as I said, going to suggest I want more of the tree, maybe seeing the branch of the tree, but I mean, not the branch, the trunk of the tree, and grounding that section. But by grounding that section, you lose a lot of the poetic, the metaphor of that being a pure hand of nature reaching out to us in isolation. Okay, beautiful. Absolutely. I love the composition. Don't change it too much, Adam. Sonia says these are great sections. Quirk is good. Absolutely. I was going to tell Adam to, or advise him to improve this by removing the quirk. But yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love the hand reaching out. And I love that story to this particular image. Absolutely phenomenal. How would I improve this? I can see some improvement, some minor improvement that might just help set this off. And the number one thing is when we add contrast to our photos in Photoshop, or process our photos in Photoshop, one of the first things that really starts going a bit over the top can be blue, the blue tones in our skies. And look, maybe you're loving the really rich blues in the sky, but if it were mine, I find that a little bit distracting. And I really want the story to be about the relationship between these two subjects. The photo, and this is a huge compliment in my opinion, because what I'm about to say is compare this to the work of one of my all-time photographers, Riccardo da Cunha. Look up the work of Riccardo da Cunha, and this composition reminds me of some of the quirk that Riccardo would include to help tell his really beautiful stories. So Adam, if you haven't heard, and I'm sure you probably have heard of Riccardo's work, but if you haven't, he's another talented Victorian photographer and one of my absolute all-time favourites, and I'm going to put the pressure on Rick to get him here too. To talk about his work, but this composition would remind me of something that Riccardo would come up with, and it would just blow my mind that he came up with it, because my mind is so, not on that level, I don't think. All right, let's just tweak those blues down a little bit and see if it maybe emphasizes that story a little bit. Sorry, not curves. Hue saturation. Yeah, let's go to the cyans. Oh, already. And the blues too. We might even knock them right out. It really depends on the story, Adam. Like, if I'm going to take that story that I was just narrating then, maybe that's too much, absolutely. Let's just lower the opacity of that. And if we do something like, maybe we could darken the blues a little bit too. If we add a black and white layer, for example, and I'm not suggesting this should go to black and white, although it does look quite nice too. It really emphasizes the light in the valleys here quite beautifully. So you could look at that as well. What does everyone think about the black and white conversion? I haven't even tweaked it yet, but doesn't it emphasize the beautiful light, which also suits the story of, finding your solace in nature maybe, or that peace and quiet of nature. What I was going to do was switch this over to, say, luminosity mode, which you can see is not black and white at all anymore, but we can use the black and white sliders now to kind of adjust certain elements. That's too much. But just to darken that sky down, and it sort of brings the tree forward. So that works quite nicely. Maybe we do go with the black and white and maybe just lower the opacity of that black and white and just allow a little bit of that soft, understated color to come through, and see how it's got that more sort of unsettling feeling now. with that black and white. I don't know. Have a play. I don't, I've taken that and added an entirely new narrative. But if you enjoy that narrative, feel free to have a play and take it as your own if you enjoy that. If you don't, then completely ignore what I'm saying. Um, Michelangelo says, was the image, was it the Sistine Chapel? I think it might have been, with the two hands kind of reaching out, together. Isn't that a beautiful metaphor for the present time? And I think this image sort of mirrors a little bit of that as well. And I wouldn't change the composition at all. All right, let's move along. Peter says, warm up the building. Yeah, we could do that, Peter. Depends on the narrative. Warming up the building, for me, the building is the one that's in isolation. So the coolness of the building kind of adds to the loneliness of the image. Warming up the building adds a sense of comfort and warmth. If that's, what you're looking for, maybe warming up the hills, the light on the hills could add the warmth that is and comfort that is kind of in the distance at the moment. So I think that image speaks to people in different ways, depending. And as the artist, and this is why it's so important, if you're going to have a poetic narrative, like I just explained, or not so much if you're going to, but having a poetic narrative really helps how you will process an image, because it gives you the direction. I like keeping this cold, but I do like Peter's suggestion of maybe warming up one area of the image. And let's do that a little bit. Let's add a bit of pure sunlight and see what happens. Just an experiment. And maybe Peter has a different narrative, and that's completely okay too. That's warming up kind of everything, but I'm just keeping my eye on these mountains down here. Maybe we can add a little bit of distant warmth, and it really, like, having a narrative or what you're trying to achieve. Okay, something like that. Maybe lower that opacity. And I'm going to do something a little bit advanced here and change the density of the mask. Watch what happens to my black mask when I change the density. It turns grey, thereby adding a little bit of this adjustment layer across the entire image. I touch on this in my more advanced courses over at easywayphotography.com.au. And if you're looking to learn a full Photoshop workflow, have a look in the description below. My most popular course, my beginner Photoshop workflow, is now pay whatever you choose to pay. Choose your own price if you like, including zero if you can't afford anything at the moment. That's completely okay. I'm not sure. Let's move on to the next image. It's all about having a play. Hydrun. Sorry, hopeless at pronouncing names, particularly names that I'm not familiar with. Hydrun says, I would love to send you a photo. I would love to send you a photo, but I'm not sure if it's okay. Yeah, of course it's okay. Everyone is okay. It is a photo of the Eiger Nord Wand. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. One of the most difficult mountains of Switzerland to climb. I just wanted to see the wonderfully clear air of this part of Europe. So Hydrun was hoping to capture, I'm guessing, a sense of, peace, quiet, and the beautiful, clear country mountain air, I guess. That's what I'm getting from that statement. Okay. Nice, big, beautiful, vibrant panoramic. Got the strong subject. Got some pretty nice light. It's more of your midday harsh light. What have we got in there as we zoom in? Is there any little bits to kind of enjoy? It's a little tree kind of poking its head up there. I kind of want to see more or less of that. Yeah, not bad. I'm enjoying the color palette. The warm foreground versus the cold blue sky. That's quite nice. I'm obviously enjoying the mountain range. I can see this is obviously a panoramic, where I'm assuming there's one of two issues here with this image. It's either a panoramic or it's been captured with a polarizing filter. As Ignacio Palacios rings me, he's probably ringing me to ask me, when can you get me on your show? Everyone's talking about it, and I want to get on there and tell everyone about my incredible ebook. Ignacio, probably ringing me for that. I'm on air, Ignacio. You should be watching. Okay. Anyway, we'll get him on. Just looking at your... Sue Ellen says, I guess that told me there's an infinite number of ways of processing. Depends on the narrative. Absolutely, it does. But what on this image here, I would like to see this dark patch kind of removed out. If it is a panoramic, you can often get a better seamless finish by having more overlap to your images. Secondly, if it's a panoramic, it may have been caused by a polarizing filter. So take your polarizing filter off, and what I would tend to do is capture the sky maybe in one frame. So, you might have captured this with a 50mm or something panoramic to get right into those mountains. And then what I would often do is capture the sky, and I do this with water as well because water can be really hard to stitch. I'll put on a really, really wide lens, catch the sky or the water in one frame, and then blend it in so it's seamless. Okay, so that could be a way of improving that as well. Other than that, pretty good job. Colours are nice and vibrant. You might want to tone down the foreground just a fraction, maybe not. And you could also look at crops. Have a play with crops. I feel like this area is the real area of interest. You might come in, more so like that could work too. Before, after. Yeah, something like that. The other thing would be, and this can be hard, particularly when you're on tour or traveling around, a better time of day to shoot this would obviously be, for me, be sunrise, sunset, or maybe even overcast to get a bit more drama. Shooting right in the middle of the day has resulted in really, really bright highlights and hard shadows, which is giving a harshness to this image. And I might, if you were trying to capture the serenity of the mountain air, then maybe a softer light of sunrise or sunset might really capture that better. Yeah, Gay says everyone's eye is different. Absolutely. There is no wrong or right. This is just me offering my opinion, and most of the time just ignore it. But every now and again, something might resonate and you might think, oh yeah, I could do that with my images. I could do that with my images. How are we going? Everyone hitting those likes? Let's get a record. Let's see if we can get it over 100 likes in before I even switch off. We've got 3 more images to go. This one, I didn't put the name down, did I? No, I didn't, but I know who this is because he's a mate of mine and one of my students and a super talented photographer, Federico Rakowski. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I love the name. It's a beautiful name. If there's an artistic name I've ever heard that will go a long way, Federico Rakowski is a beautiful name, and he produces beautiful work. He's actually got 2 images here, and I don't usually include 2 images. If people send me 3 or 4, I generally choose one, but I feel like these sit together really, really well, and it would be a shame to leave one out. The first one is called Blue Sorrow, and Federico says it is an interpretation of anxiety and depression and my way of trying to understand my father's struggle with this dark and unforgiving state of mind. Let's take a look at the first one first, with Federico creating an image of trying to understand his father's battle with darkness and depression and anxiety. Let's have a look. Very deep subject. Oh, turn that off. Turn that off. I know this image well because I absolutely love it, and it speaks to me as well with my experience and living with anxiety and depression. It's got that real darkness. It's got the coldness, which really speaks to me on that level. It's got that blurriness. If you've ever experienced high levels of anxiety and even depression, often you get that mental fog or blurriness to your reality, particularly in high states of anxiety or panic. So I see that. It's beautiful. I see those birds as the want and the need for peace and quiet and being free from that mental anguish. Beautiful. I really like the composition too, those 2 lines sort of drawing you back to the blurriness at the background. Maybe, and I feel like I don't need to critique this because it's a beautiful image, but I do see a couple of things if it were mine, that I might just play with and see if the narrative doesn't get stronger. I would be tempted to maybe have some clarity to the trees. Again, for me and for my story, I find a lot of solace and peace in nature. So having a forest or a grove of trees that were in detail rather than being completely blurry, as being that path and somewhere that I wanted to move towards, that might improve it. I'm also wondering whether a square composition, because I'm using a square composition for my latest series on depression and anxiety, because I feel like square is a very constraining, constricting, rigid box to put a photo in, or ratio to frame a photo in. And I love this wide angle, and aesthetically a square might not help, but maybe it does. It might help the narrative. Let's have a little look. Down in here, I'm not sure we need all of that and all of that. Let's have a look. And look, you have an incredible emotional attachment to this image. And as soon as I did that, we got to come out here. I have no right, Federico, to really tell you what may improve this particular story, because you have such a deep emotional attachment. So excuse me while I do. It's I suppose it's part and parcel of the nature of what we do here. Just move that up to tidy that up a bit. Now, obviously, when we do that, we get that really dark line on the left, and I'm not sure, I would probably clone a bit of this side over here, so that wasn't such a distraction. And it's a completely different photo. And I'm not sure. It really comes down to whether you think the square, the rigidity, and the element of perfection that a square adds to that story, or you prefer the window. The original composition, if we go back, was much more like a window looking into, your father's soul, if you like, or how he deals with that darkness. Okay, love it. Absolutely beautiful. Federico is here with us. Thanks, Federico. Thanks for joining. Love your work, mate. Keep doing what you're doing and keep trying to tell those stories that are really close to your heart. I know that you've seen some success with this image and your body of work recently, because you won the New South Wales, or was it the Australian? You won a really big award. Either the Australian AIPP Emerging Photographer of the Year or the New South Wales Emerging Photographer of the Year. Or maybe you won both, I can't remember. But I know you've had some recent success with this body of work. So take that as an encouragement, and believe me, keep doing what you're doing and keep trying to tell your story the way you're doing, because it's a beautiful, expressive body of work, and it really captures that story that you're trying to tell really, really well. Let me just change the crop around here. I have one more image from Federico. Clear. Let's move that out. Move that out. Tidy up the top. I won't discuss this one terribly a lot because we're running quite long, and Federico, we discussed the other one in some depth, but again, mate, absolutely gorgeous. I dig it. If I was going to suggest anything on a competition level, and look, who cares on a competition level or a judging level, but on a competition level, the judges are going to crucify you probably for having these really heavy dark vignettes here. I might consider really bringing that vignette in, so you have this old school films. It does have an old school film style, an analog feel style to it, and I love that analog feel. But I might bring the vignette in, so you have these really, really, really burnt dark edges around the entire frame, and just tunnel visioning in, just creating that tunnel vision might help this particular image. Okay, keep doing what you. Isn't it just gorgeous? Gorgeous. I love it. Apawin, Sue Ellen says it was the Apawin. Okay, awesome, awesome. Well done, mate. Incredible. Yeah, Peter says the crop was no good, I think he's referring to, or he says, yes, it is. It needs all the darkness. I agree. I don't think the square worked. Love it. Danielle Metcalf says loves it. Yeah, me too. Trey Lane says, are they curtains on the side? They absolutely could be curtains of darkness. Yeah, I love that metaphor too. Peter says he'd crucify the judges if they crucified this image. Yeah, 100% judges. Who cares about judges? Who cares about any opinion, really? We all do it to a certain degree, and that can be difficult. But I think to be an artist, true at core, even if you're affected by the judgment of others or what other people think, you have to try and, remove that from your artistic creative process as much as you can. And the more you can remove that, the more authentic and the more of your story you can tell without being corrupted or influenced or however you want to see it by other people. So, for me, in this image, I want more darkness. I don't want you to remove the dark vignette. I want you to add to it and tunnel vision it in. And I think that might really help the overall intimidating, foreboding heaviness to this image that I think you're trying to capture. I didn't read the second. Let me see what this image, let me bring this in. It's called Particles, that second image we look at. In the cities we lose ourselves, our vision becomes blurred in search of belonging and clarity. And that's beautiful, particularly for where we're at the moment, mate. Absolutely gorgeous. One more look. Oh, that's not it. Right there. Beautiful. Who gets to follow up that one? Mukul. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. That would be how I would, my best guess. Mukul. G'day, thanks for joining us. If you're here with us, give us a shout out in the comments and let me know that you're here. Your heart's probably started to race. Here we go. Let's have a look. He asks, I hope I'm doing well. Thank you. Yes, I am. I'm enjoying this show and the purpose that it gives me, and it's really making the time that I'm spending at home really, really enjoyable, to be honest. And the days are just flying by. I can't believe this is our 4th full week. I think it's about our 22nd live show. You can find all the old live shows, do a marathon, see if you can watch them all in one. No, don't do that. Anyway, what are we talking about? Mukul says, would love to get your feedback on the photograph attached. I saw the house and boat in the distance and wanted to show them in the overall context of the landscape. There was no discernible sunlight on the grass and that has been added in Lightroom. Cool, awesome. Let's check it out. Beautiful. Wow. I love the composition. Having that anchor in the foreground, those beautiful rocks, and then sweeping off to the main subject of the house and then losing yourself in the distance in the background. I love it. Similar to that other image we had with the sheep, I find, and this is completely my own taste, I find the greens and the sunlight to be a little bit bluish, and I would tend to want to tweak them over into the more golden range whilst trying to maintain the greens, if you know what I mean. And we'll have a look at that and see if we can do that. And also I find the blues a little bit too deep, and I would tend to maybe desaturate those so that I can keep most of my attention in the really, really interesting areas of this image. And the sky is interesting as well. It's got a lot of interest. This is an absolute ripper. I love it. Let's have a look. So I love the composition. I love the subject. I love the light, and the processing is really, really nice. I feel like this is like 99% there, and it just needs a tiny tweak to just be an absolute gobsmacker. And there's many here that probably think this is a gobsmacker already. Let's just have a little play. Excuse me while I have a little play. Let's just desat those blues a little bit, desaturate the blues. So hue saturation. I will just desaturate everything. Just a little. Just like that. Command or Control I. B for brush, and we'll just paint that in up here. And we might just desaturate that little bit a little bit more. It's getting a bit funky in there, isn't it? A little bit. Getting a bit dark. I might also add just a fraction of light there, particularly to that background bit, because it looks a little bit strange. And it's only because I'm desaturating here that it's starting to look a little bit strange. Okay, and I'm just going to use blend if to just restrict that a little bit. Into that area particularly. Yeah, that looks nice. Well, when I say it looks nice, it's different, but I don't want too much attention up in those darker areas, so I'm just pulling them, making them a little bit more consistent, okay? And then let's just tweak, see if we can tweak the green so we get a little bit more golden hue into those areas of sunlight, particularly here, here, and here. And again, I think I might just use there's a million ways we could do this with solid color or photo filter or hue saturation or color balance. Try your favorite. Not black and white. That's not going to help, although it is a nice black and white in itself. Add a filter, a photo filter. And I'm only looking at this area and this area, and see, can we see, when we turn that on and off, can you see the difference, how cold the light is right now, or at least in my opinion? And then we warm that up a little bit, okay? But I know some of these, in Australia, that's how I see light, and I get the feeling that some of these European locations, if this is a European, it feels like a European location, might have a slightly colder, bluer light. And if that's the case, well, completely ignore me, okay? But let's invert that, and just, I don't want to make everything golden. I just want to add a little bit of a hue here and there, you know, down here, maybe up there, and a little bit in the background, and leaving some of that, and maybe here, and leaving some of that blue-green in there as well. So that's what we've ended up doing. Before, after. Subtle, but it works for me. And then let's try and increase the depth. And I'm just having a play here. We're just having a bit of fun, okay? Just having a play. How are we going for numbers out of interest? We don't care about breaking Tom's record. We're not going to break it today. We'll leave that up to a superstar next week. But have we still got some decent numbers watching along? And if we do, be sure to hit the like button. That little gesture, it makes all the difference. I really, really appreciate you doing that for me. What are we doing? We're going to try and add some depth. And the way we'll do that, my favorite way is, so to add depth, we want to reduce contrast normally. And we also want to bring the color palette back into whatever the sky is doing. Now the sky is kind of blue-gray, but we also have that golden light coming across. So we'll probably go with something between blue-gray and the golden light. Let's see if that works. Solid color. So here's the blue sky and golden light. Which one? Maybe we go for a greenish yellow. Something like that. Click OK. And this could be the wrong color. It probably won't work, but let's see. All I'm going to do is lower the opacity. Okay. And what I want to get is a little bit of that romantic landscape painting feeling. This image has a very painterly composition. And by adding some depth, by reducing the contrast this way, add a solid color layer, and lower the opacity to about 30-40%. And we can just grab I'm going to grab the gradient tool here and click on the gradient so it goes from white to black, and then click on this little gradient icon. Make sure we're in normal, 100% opacity. What's reverse do? Oh, reverse just flicks that around, that's fine. On or off doesn't really matter. You can see it's going to start white, go to black. So I want most of this up the top and none of it down the bottom. Oh, yeah, now we're talking. I'll turn this up so you can really see what we've done here and the depth that we've added, okay? I probably wouldn't go that aggressive. I would make it more subtle, but can we see what this layer has done? See how all the contrast and all the tonality was all on one plane? Contrast is very, very important in pushing elements backwards and forwards. And what we've managed to do with this one layer is push that backwards. I hope you'll agree with me that that is working. I go through all of this in my online courses as well in great detail and how to do this in a more structured workflow manner. If you're interested in that, my beginner Photoshop course is in the description below. Choose whatever price you like. Okay? I think this is a beautiful image. I've probably ruined it. I don't know if you guys like the changes, but before, beautiful, very aggressive edit, but we've just made it a little bit more subtle and tried to add some depth. Did we succeed? I think we did. I think it's a little bit more painterly, a little bit more romantic. A little bit more romantic. Maybe we could bring the sky out a little bit more now that I've covered it up a bit with that layer. We could just brush that off, in fact. Just a little like that. Hey, what do you think? I quite like it. Doug says, that's the goods. Thanks, mate. You've got good taste and a good eye, so I'll trust that your opinion is on the money. Have we got? Peter says, apart from what I did to the sky. Yeah, fair enough. I quite like the sky. It has some issues still, though. Yes. Yes, apart from what you did to the sky, it's very, very good. Thanks, Peter. You're not one to mix words, are you, mate? I love that about you, mate. Bev. Bev is a regular viewer. Bev, I hope you're out there. If you are, this is the finale, the final image. I hope everyone's enjoying today's live stream. I'm having a good time, having some fun. Feel like I'm in the zone today. Feel like I'm in the zone. Bev says, I'm sending through this image of mine. I haven't been brave enough to add any to the Facebook page yet, or add any, maybe she's done a few. But I do love playing around with various things in the home, and I've had a quick glimpse at this one. This could be something that we could all do at home, set up a bit of still life photography. We live 3 hours from NEC, and the land here is farming and flat. It does have its good points, of course, but there is only so much you can get out there. Here is my image. What do you think? Thanks, Bev. This is something we can do at home. Set up some still life. Get your tripod out, get some fruit out, get whatever, vase of flowers, whatever. You could also do some macro in the backyard, but you can definitely do some still life like this. And what I'm going to suggest is if you are doing still life, Google Dutch masters still life paintings, something like that, and get a bit of an idea of how the Dutch masters did it, and set yourself a challenge and see if you can replicate a little bit of the Dutch masters lighting. I quite like the composition. We've got an old brick there, which is sitting subtly, with the hero being this pair here. I'm not sure what that black is. I don't know what that is, but I don't believe it needs to be there, so I would look to remove that. The narrative of the pair with the core and the bite. Yeah, I'd be more inclined myself, and this is just me, I'd be more inclined to maybe just take a bite and not have the pair split. I think you could get some nicer gradients of lighting that way. Whereas given your lighting seems to be coming from the top left, it's hitting this pretty consistently, and it's really drawing my attention away from what I believe is the main subject here. So keep that in mind. Is Beverly having a panic attack? Is Beverly there? Can't see. Anyway. Yeah, it is a great still life, absolutely. Let's see if we can improve it. So Google the Dutch Masters still life photography and try and replicate their light. I like the Hessian in the background, but I think it's a bit bright. Let's see if we can't push that Hessian back a bit, make it more of a texture. We need to control the light here, maybe add, or maybe there's enough light there, but maybe we could just darken off the background to give this pair a little more dimension. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a little quick 5 minute. Look, if you were going to replicate the work of a Dutch master's lighting, it would take years of experience and hours of work potentially. So don't expect this to be anything like that, but let's have a play. If I want to push something into shadow, I will add a curves layer, grab the white point and drag it down. Something like that. Command or Control I for invert. Let's just zoom back a bit. B for brush. And look, if I had the time and I wasn't live, I'd probably do a proper cutout of some of these elements so that I could do it more accurately. But Bear with me. I'll just do a rough edit. If you look at the Dutch masters, you know, one of the things they're really renowned for or known for is the play on dark and light. You know, they're often subjects lit on a dark background, much like you're seeing here now. And we'll just go to a white brush here, a black brush, sorry, and paint that back out. And let's do a bit more. Let's get real aggressive here. You know, that edge, oh, white, that edge of the brick can push back a bit. Dot out there. We don't want any distractions out on the corners, really. I do want to see the Hessian. I like it. I want to see it. But I don't want it to be so noticeable that I'm looking out there a great deal. Okay, let's just try and control that light. This could be difficult, but I'll try. I'm going to merge all the layers together. Command, Option, Shift, E for everything on a PC. Control, Alt, Shift, E for everything. And I'm going to select this area that has a more controlled light. And maybe that's for backlighting. Maybe there's a torch back there. You know, I think the subtle light from the side is maybe the go. Let's press Command or Control J, Command or Control T. Will this work? Will it work? Let's try Blend If first of all. Okay, that's not bad. B for brush. Add a layer mask. Black brush. And we just need to zoom in a little bit here. Bear with me. I won't be too careful with this because we'll be here forever. Okay, a little bit more subtle. I'd like to probably remove that and remove that light source and remove that. Let's just add a little bit of different light to this pair just to give you an idea or set a challenge. Like if you're bored at home this afternoon, grab some fruit out of the fruit bowl, set up something on the kitchen bench, put your camera on a tripod, you know, get a torch or get some natural light through the window is probably nice, or even through the shades of a blind to really diffuse it. If you're using a torch, maybe get a sheet of A4 paper or something to shine the torch through so it diffuses the torch. You know, try different fabrics. You could put the torch or the natural window light through a red fabric to try and get a bit more warmth, or a blue fabric, you know, have a play. Generally the Dutch masters had a kind of a tobacco-y warmth to the light, I think I've noticed, but have a study of that, see what you can understand. Let's just maybe darken off the shadows here a fraction on the pair itself. Oh, B for brush, not C for crop. Okay, you know, it's just to have a play. I'm thinking we could even darken that down a little bit more. Command or Control I. Just have a play around. See if you can't replicate that. Come back to this video. I don't know what minute we're up to, but have a note of how far in we are and see what I'm doing and see if you can't replicate some of that Dutch masters kind of lighting. This is just a rough job, so don't give me a hard time, but you know, that beautiful little highlight there, look at that, it's gorgeous. one of the things I notice about the Dutch Masters is they have beautiful gradients throughout their light. So there isn't any harsh kind of shadow. It's always soft transitions like so. Okay, and then maybe even a crop. How about that? There we go. Just having a play. Let's have a look at, well, not so much without the crop, but that was before with the lighting, and just softened it down, give it a bit of mystery with some darkness. I probably ruined it, as I do with most of the photos, right? But have a play with that. Let's have a look if there was some couple of questions before we wrap this up. Before I do look at the questions and have a quick chit chat, as I said, tell your friends, if you've got any friends that are feeling down or lonely, tell them to come and join you, and you can have a chat on the live comments. Give me a hard time, and get a little bit of social interaction that way. Even if they're not interested in photography, just say, hey, I'm enjoying this each morning while I have a cup of tea. Come along, see if you like it. You might get into photography. You don't need a big expensive camera to do photography. You can do with your iPhone around the house and bring those photos into Lightroom or Photoshop, or get a free app. There's some great free apps to edit your iPhone shots. I really like Snapseed. Snapseed does a great job. It doesn't give you the flexibility of what Photoshop can do, granted, but it can be some fun. So, try and get some interesting effects on Snapseed with the fruit bowl in your house, etc., etc. Have some fun. Once again, thank you to everyone that submitted an email image. If you're interested in me doing an edit on one of your RAW files, send me a RAW file to adam@easywayphotography.com, and we'll do some of that next week as well. I've got some big announcements on Monday, so be sure to be around on Monday. Bev was here. Thank you. I hope I didn't give you too much of a hard time. Your image is beautiful, and it gave me that chance to sort of introduce everyone to the Dutch Masters. Have a look at the Dutch Masters and their lighting techniques, because I think it really, really suits still life photography quite beautifully. Those smooth light transitions, soft light transitions. Let me have a quick look for any questions before we wrap this up for good. We've done about an hour and a half. We're not going to break Tom Putt's record on any level, but I hope you enjoyed it. Dean says, lovely composition. I think that was in reference to this particular photo of Beverly. Yeah, I agree. It was a beautiful composition. Another option here as well. Yes, she's there and scared stiff. I hope you enjoyed it. Brick from outside. I quite like the brick. I think it really works well. Or, yeah, Rosie says maybe leave the seeds in the cut version. Yeah, I think, look, to be honest, if you're going to go with a Dutch Masters, I think the Dutch Masters style really suits the beautiful curves that fruit can have. So, try one pair. I think this would be a great composition with just one pair. Just do one pair with that gorgeous light, and I think you've got something really, really special. But then you could try, you could do one pear, one apple, one all sorts of different fruit and vegetables, just as a bit of fun. Then you could bring them together, okay? Bit of fun. Try and get that soft, smooth transitions against the dark light of the background. Look, I'm sure you can capture the dark light in camera much, maybe as well. It's not something I'm an expert at, but I'm sure you can do that too. Oh, we had a good showing. Thank you for everyone watching along. Doug says we have 165 watching and 104 likes. We cracked 100 likes. You guys are amazing. Be sure to join us again on Monday morning, same place, same time. Hit the subscribe button and the notifications button to make sure you join us. Crop, well, reduced lighting is fabulous. Thanks, Dean. You make me feel really, really great about my half-baked editing efforts. Federico, thanks, mate. Thank you for adding an image and giving me something to talk about. Gail says, thanks once again. Absolutely great to have you here again, Gail. I see your name here most days, as well as Anthony and most of these names. Kathy, I haven't seen that name before, Kathy. If you're new, thank you for joining us. Be sure to tell your friends. Oh, Federico has given us another name to look up for still life. Joseph Sudek is a master of still life. Look them up if you're interested in still life photography. Great session. Thank you, Sonia. I see you here all the time. Great to have you. Guyang, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I see you here often too. Thank you for joining us on a regular basis. Up to 108 likes. We are flying, guys. Thank you. Doug Porter, good mate of mine. You're always here. Great to have you, as well as everyone else. Great session. Fabulous. Brilliant. Great session. Thanks, guys. Doesn't look to be any other questions. Remember all those things in the description below. If you're looking for something to do, there's some ebooks. There's a free course or a pay what you like course. There is Tom Putt's video from yesterday. I have set now, go out, do a still life challenge and post it in the Easy Way Photography Facebook group. All that good stuff, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoy it. I really look forward to coming on air each day. I'm building a new set. I'm trying to improve as we go. I've got some things coming in the post, some different leads and stuff, so I can give you a better web camera and a better experience. Once again, stay safe, stay well, love to your family, and thanks for joining me. I'll see you Monday morning. Bye for now and have a great weekend. Cheers.